Yes, thank you for having me. I'm grateful to be here. My name is Suzette Shaw. I am a Skid Row resident. I write, talk, and I advocate Skid Row from a woman's perspective. Literally, July 31st, 2012, I came to Skid Row on the midnight train from Arizona, my hometown. And so I'm going to share a story with you. I'm not visually with you this evening. However, I hope that you can visualize through the story that I share in the few minutes that I have. So after losing my job, April 23rd, 2010, where I was second in charge of a business processing company. At the height, I oversaw the needs of almost 200 employees. I was working with a loan officer to buy a home at the time that I lost my job, April 23rd, 2010. For 2 years, I desperately tried to find sustainable employment while also deeply involved with my community service work in the community. I was chair of a restorative justice program. I was executive director to its attending nonprofit, and the head county attorneys were my mentors. I was the face of my hometown's annual fair housing event. I sat around the table on a weekly, monthly, and basis with folks in charge of housing on a city, county, and state, federal level. Yet no one could save me from homelessness. So July 2012, I ended up being court ordered from my community, my home. I lived in a $500,000 neighborhood around the corner from the country club in Yuma, Arizona, my hometown. I didn't want to go back into my mother's home that evening, so I slept in my SUV in the alleyway behind my mother's home. Long story short, my family found out I was sleeping in the alley and so forth, and said that I needed to come to California. I have a twin sister here. And so my family forced me to take the midnight train and come here July 31st. I ended up here August 1st at Union Station. Why that story is important is because so often who we are as people displaced of Skid Row, we're pathologized as being, we're pathologized, period. We're pathologized. And as Ari and I believe you said Lois have shared with you, you know, there are systemic failures which have led to the issues why Skid Row can look the way that it is, and why there are so many unhoused people who look like me and are Black. My trials have become my testimony, and my testimony is my advocacy, and the advocacy is a story of why I hear today, and why I do the work that I do now. And so I oftentimes say that Skid Row looks like the slave motherships capsized right here on this concrete. And we have workforce redlining, we have housing redlining, and now we have COVID redlining. And as it relates to the intersections of comorbidity of issues further exacerbating when people are not able to social distance and allow for safe practices as hygiene, as well as social distancing, 6 feet, and all that good stuff. So I have to say that poverty is trauma, homelessness is trauma. All of that is only further exacerbated by going through a system that only further exacerbates the trauma, because although we talk a lot about being trauma informed, people really have a cognitive dissonance that continues to perpetuate the trauma. I was a case manager, certified case manager at one time. And so it ended up being very interesting to end up on the other side and having this lived experience. I'm 56 years old. I didn't end up on social services until I was 47 years of age. So that's important to share that. I'm going to just try and get through a couple of notes really quickly here. Many of the women that I met along the way are stories intertwined by a single thread. Again, many of the women, you won't know us because oftentimes, you know, you may see us in the grocery store. We may be picking out fruit at the same time. We may walk down the street and we're normally trying to hold on to our dignity. So oftentimes you're not going to know us because oftentimes we're not going to be that one out there panhandling and asking for money because our pride won't allow us to do that. So if we do ask you for a dollar, hand us that damn dollar, please, because it was really hard for us to ask for. Elderly Black women are one of the #1 demographics that's placed in the poverty and homelessness here in Skid Row, not just year after year, but literally decade after decade by huge disproportionate numbers. And then that really sheds light on the systemic failures, because that only then tells you that there has to be something embedded in the system that would allow for generations of family and people, communities to be displaced into a community which, according to United Nations refugee camps, people are living in less than third world living conditions. You know, Ari shared with you that some of the issues going on here in Skid Row. We've been part of a project. I started with a project in 2017, No Place to Go, which brought awareness at that particular time that there were 9 public toilets for the thousands of people out here on the streets. 9 public toilets. So again, Skid Row is literally like the hidden shame behind the Hollywood glitz and glam. And there's a weathering which goes on while being displaced into poverty and homelessness, food deserts, and all the ills associated with. What ends up happening is that people who are displaced into homelessness oftentimes end up dying 20 years younger than the average person does. I'm going to finalize now, if you don't mind. Can I finalize?
Sure.
Do I have
Go
one
ahead.
more minute?
Sure.
Oh, thank you. I just want to finalize and share with you a poem that I wrote called Standing for Dignity and Equality. I'm not a liberated woman, as I am just a woman who yearns to live free. And I wish to live free from the bondage of inequality, because I'm just so longing for equality that is yet to be. Yeah, we've come far, but how far we have yet to come. Women are still striving for the equal sum. And whether we're sitting in the White House, Donald Trump Plaza up in Beverly Hills, to the lows of the Appalachians, the rundown sawmills, or the Catskills, whether your zip code is in Manhattan, New York, or right here in Skid Row, human dignity should not come at the price, for only those could afford connoisseur prices or exquisite means. I humbly tell you, my voice, it is my power. It fuels me each day. It gives me the strength which surpasses none. Instead, it allows me to be more of my equal sum. Please know I'm just one voice, and I've won no battles. The battles, they have yet to be won. This voice is just another gift God gave to me so I can stand tall for dignity and equality. Thank you for your time today. Thank you.